Self-defense. They said we supposed to know how to act around white people. What the is that? What for? What is that? What is self-defense? Is self-defense not somebody touching you that you don't want touching you and you defending yourself? What is self-defense? Murder? Murder? Hold on. The same guy that saved the life? The same guy that saved the life? Austin mother, as a mother to mother, you seen that woman on the news crying. You know damn well Karmelo did not try to kill your son. He wanted to defend himself. Them big ass motherfucking boys in his face. You should have taught your sons to go get a motherfucking adult like we know how to do.
No criminal history of violence. Claims self-defense after being assaulted and is found guilty of murder in the same exact year that this Asian man walks free after hunting down a black child, a 14-year-old. The justice system is not broken. It was never created for us. I have nothing else. My heart goes out to Karmelo and his family. May the ancestors be with him.
I completely understand everybody is emotional right now. Y'all should be. I'm not going to get on this internet and act like Karmelo Anthony, he's innocent because he did unalive somebody, even though he was defending himself. That's why I say it's a lose-lose situation. Do I think he should have got 35 years? Hell no. That's why I said they could have gave him at least manslaughter. But we not going to sit on the internet and act like it's not still racist people out here in this world, black and white, that don't want to change their ways, they're stuck in their ways. And the justice system just fucked up all over. A lot of people saying this ain't got nothing to do with black or white. And to be honest with y'all, a lot of it do. I'm just being grown about the situation because it's a lot of grown people that acting like kids right now. I don't know the Metcalf twins. I don't know Karmelo Anthony. But if I had to look into this case, I'll look at both of them like a little brother. Hey, y'all chill out. Y'all doing too much, man. Shake hands and keep going. Because a lot of shit really ain't that damn deep. A lot of things in life you just can walk away from. And this go for both sides. Not just Karmelo, but the Metcalf twins too. One thing my grandma told me before she died, she always told me, "Bug, think before you react." That one line right there will take you through life real easy. If you just take a second, take a moment and just think before you just start going crazy and reacting wild. If them twins would have thought about their actions before they went over there and started fucking with Karmelo Anthony, one of them would still be alive. That's just the bottom honest truth. If Karmelo would have thought about his action, he wouldn't never got 35 years. Yes, I understand it's raining. Yes, I understand that he was on a tent that didn't belong to him. But at the end of the day, you got to defuse the situation on both ends. But as a parent, we all can say what we would have did, what we could have did, if this, if that. And what I will say is that Karmelo Anthony was guilty from the start because they already knew and had it planned out. And I keep telling y'all, when it comes to the court system, it ain't about being right or wrong. It's a money grab. Because if you can bribe somebody with some money to get you out of trouble or win on your side, you're going to take the money regardless. Time is hard right now. Then you playing with a bunch of people that's behind this. White people that got money. You know what I'm saying? So I'm pretty sure that whole jury got paid under the table. Do I think Karmelo Anthony need 35 years? Hell no. Do I think he innocent? Hell no. Do I think he should have got manslaughter? Hell yeah.
A 17-year-old boy went to a track meet on a rainy Wednesday morning in April 2025. He was a football MVP, an honor student, an identical twin. His brother was right there beside him. By 10 o'clock that morning, he was on the ground with a hole in his chest, dying in that same brother's arms. And the most devastating part? Nobody, not a single person at that stadium, saw it coming. Welcome back to CrimeLab Report. I'm your host, and today we are diving deep into one of the most talked about, most debated, and most emotionally charged cases this country has seen in years. The killing of Austin Metcalf, the trial of Karmelo Anthony, and a moment of verdict to our community, and honestly, this entire nation, completely in two. Now listen, I've covered a lot of cases on this channel, but what happened after that jury came back? The crying, the screaming outside the courthouse, the viral videos, the fake posts, the families falling apart in real time. That is what we need to talk about today, because this case didn't end when that verdict was read. In a lot of ways, it's just getting started. So let's go back to where it all began. April 2nd, 2025. Kuykendall Stadium, Frisco, Texas. It was a UIL District 11-5A championship track meet, a big deal for these student athletes. Thunderstorms rolled in that morning and delayed the event, so hundreds of kids from competing schools were pushed together under tents in the bleachers, waiting out the rain. That's where the trouble started. Karmelo Anthony, a 17-year-old from Frisco Centennial High School, ended up sitting under a tent that belonged to the Memorial High School team, Austin Metcalf's team. According to multiple witnesses, Anthony was told repeatedly to leave that reserved area. He refused. Austin Metcalf's twin brother Hunter was there. He remembers it clearly. He said they asked Anthony to move. Anthony didn't just say no. He got aggressive. He got loud. And then Austin stepped in. Hunter told investigators the whole confrontation lasted under 30 seconds. Under 30 seconds. He said his brother looked at Anthony and told him, "You need to move." Anthony looked back and said, "Make me." And right there, right in that moment, something shifted. Anthony reached his hand into his backpack. A witness nearby heard him say the words, "Touch me and see what happens." And then Austin Metcalf pushed him. Now here's where I need to stop and ask you something directly, because this is a question that has divided millions of people since this story broke. If someone is in your space, refuses to leave, reaches into a bag, and threatens you, and then you push them, does that justify what happened next? Because what happened next is the part that nobody can undo. Karmelo Anthony pulled out a pocket knife and stabbed Austin Metcalf in the chest. One strike. The blade went through the bone at the center of Austin's chest, through the sac surrounding his heart, and directly into his right ventricle. The Collin County Chief Medical Examiner, Dr. Elizabeth Ventura, would later testify that the wound was 2 inches wide, gaping, and, her exact word, unsurvivable. Austin collapsed. Coaches rushed over. A football coach pressed his hands into the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Memorial's athletic trainer dropped down and started CPR. Head track coach Robert Starr testified at trial with tears in his eyes. Everybody was praying. I just knew Austin was gone. And Hunter, Austin's identical twin, the other half of what Hunter himself described as one person, held his brother while he bled out on the stadium bleachers. Their father, Jeff, arrived at the scene to find his son on a gurney, covered in blood, barely alive. Jeff would later say he kissed Austin's cold forehead at the hospital and ran his fingers through his hair one final time. Austin Metcalf was pronounced dead. Meanwhile, Karmelo Anthony jogged away from the tent to another part of the bleachers. A coach who caught up with him on the track testified that Anthony said, "And I want you to hear these exact words. He put his hands on me. I stabbed him." He was crying hysterically by the time officers reached him. He asked repeatedly whether Austin would survive. He asked whether it could be considered self-defense. The pocket knife was found in the bleachers shortly after. Anthony was arrested and charged with first-degree murder the same day. Now, in the months that followed that April morning, 2 families were forced to grieve in completely different ways. One was grieving a son they lost. The other was grieving a son they were about to lose all over again, this time to the system. Jeff Metcalf, Austin's father, spoke publicly in the days after the stabbing. He described his son as a leader, someone who lit up every room he walked into, a kid with a 4.0 GPA, a football MVP trophy, a full future ahead of him. He said Austin didn't know Karmelo Anthony, had never met him, and yet his son was dead over a seating dispute at a high school track meet. Jeff said something in one of those early interviews that stopped a lot of people cold. He said, "Forgiveness is not for him. The forgiveness is for me, so I can have peace. His life is destroyed. My life is destroyed." Think about that for a second. A father burying a 17-year-old son, and the first thing he reaches for is forgiveness. Not for Karmelo's sake, but just to survive his own grief. Hunter Metcalf, Austin's identical twin, gave an interview that broke the internet in the worst possible way. He said, "We were one person. We did everything together, everything the same." Hunter was the one who held Austin while he died. He was the one who watched coaches try to save his brother's life and couldn't do anything but watch. And at trial, for the first time in the entire proceedings, Hunter showed up in that courtroom on verdict day. He leaned forward the moment the guilty verdict was read. His parents smiled through their tears. But here is where the story gets complicated, because on the other side of that courtroom, another mother was falling apart. Kala Hayes, Karmelo's mother, had been living a nightmare since April 2025. From the very beginning, her family was not just dealing with a legal case. They were under siege. Their personal information was leaked online. They received death threats. Her younger children, who had nothing to do with any of this, were being harassed. She stood in front of cameras in April 2025, visibly shaking, and said, "Whatever you think about what happened, my 3 younger children, my husband, and I didn't do anything to deserve to be threatened, harassed, and lied about. Our son deserves the same rights under the law that everyone is afforded to. And now I need you to ask yourself something. Do you believe that? Because regardless of what you think about the verdict, that woman's other children were being targeted by strangers on the internet. That is real. That is happening to a real family." Then the verdict came down on June 9th, 2026. Guilty of first-degree murder. And social media absolutely erupted. People making life-altering judgments based on content that was literally invented. Outside the Collin County Courthouse on verdict day, it looked like 2 different countries colliding in a parking lot. Anthony supporters were chanting, "Free Karmelo." One demonstrator screamed directly at cameras. This whole thing's been raised. Metcalf supporters stood on the other side, quiet, tearful, holding signs. One woman named Lori Arnold, who drove in specifically for verdict day, said something that I think deserves more attention than it got. She said, "There's no winners here. It was justice that he was found guilty. Am I happy about that? No. No winners. Let that land." Now, here's a part of this case that I personally cannot stop thinking about, and I want you to really sit with this before you form your final opinion. The self-defense argument was not crazy. I need you to understand that. Surveillance footage at that stadium captured Austin Metcalf pushing Karmelo Anthony before the knife came out. That pushes on video. It happened. The prosecution acknowledged it happened. Their argument wasn't that Anthony was never touched. It was that Anthony provoked the shove by threatening Metcalf first, and that a shove does not justify a fatal stab wound to the heart. But here is what the defense raised that never fully got answered in that courtroom. Karmelo Anthony was outnumbered. He was alone under that tent, surrounded by athletes from a rival school. Multiple people had told him to leave. He had no backup. He was 17 years old. And when he reached into that backpack, was he genuinely afraid? Or was he looking for a confrontation he had already decided to finish? That question, that single question, is what split this entire country down the middle. And the jury answered it in under 3 hours. No black jurors seated. Every single one of them agreed this was murder, not self-defense. And that brings us to the most controversial piece of this entire case. The jury itself. During jury selection, prosecutors use what are called peremptory strikes to remove the remaining black prospective jurors from the panel. Anthony's legal team immediately objected. They filed what is known as a Batson challenge. The challenge was denied. And Karmelo Anthony, a 19-year-old black man from Frisco, Texas, was judged by a jury with not one single black face on it.
And one white jury had the mother audacity to sit in that damn box and cry. Don't fucking cry. It's too late for your tears. Your tears was needed when you was back there deciding within 30 fucking minutes of his life. Problematic. He has been terrorizing that school, terrorizing students from other schools, and if they put him on that stand, it was going to come out. And the teachers. Those kids got up there and lied off of a relationship. And the prosecutors led it. They have an ethical duty to make sure witnesses testify truthfully, and they did, because it was a win for them. They cost one of ours their freedom. So these white people that are out here, teach your kids to keep their hands to themselves. We mind our business until y'all get in our business. We don't show up to trouble. Y'all create trouble, and we gotta get in trouble. So leave us the alone, and we will leave y'all the alone. Period.
Now, I'm not here to tell you what to think about that, but I'm going to ask you, does that matter to you? Because it clearly mattered to a lot of people. The Next Generation Action Network, the largest civil rights organization in North Texas, issued a statement after the verdict calling the outcome deeply troubling and demanding an appeal. They said from the beginning of this process they had one principle, that every person, regardless of race, background, or circumstance, is entitled to the full protections guaranteed under the Constitution. They believe Karmelo Anthony did not receive that, and there are millions of people across this country who agree with them. On the other side, Texas State Representative Jeff Leach posted 4 words after the verdict dropped: the right decision, justice delivered. Frisco ISD released a statement saying they respected the judicial process and would continue supporting students with compassion and care. And prosecutors, in their closing argument, told that jury something that stuck with me long after I read it. They said, ultimately, this case is about accountability. What kind of community do you want to live in? What kind of community do you want to live in? That line hit different depending on which side of this divide you were standing on. Because here's the reality that both sides of this debate are dancing around but never fully saying out loud. This case was never just about a 10 at a track meet. It was never really just about one push and one knife. This case became a mirror that this country held up to itself, and a lot of people did not like what they saw looking back at them. A black teenager from a rival school sits under a tent during a rainstorm. He is told to leave. He refuses. Words get exchanged. A push happens. A knife comes out. A white teenager dies in his twin brother's arms. And now that black teenager is going to spend the next 35 years of his life behind bars. So let me put the unanswered questions on the table. Because as a researcher, I think these deserve to be said out loud. Why did Karmelo Anthony bring a pocket knife to a school track meet? That question was never fully explained by the defense. His own coach admitted on the stand there was no reason for any athlete to have a knife at that event. So why did he have it? Was it a habit? Was he carrying it for protection in general? Or did he go to that stadium already prepared for a situation to escalate? We don't know. And we may never know because Karmelo Anthony never took that stand. Why did he not simply leave the tent? He was asked multiple times. He had every opportunity to walk away before a single hand was raised. What was it about that moment that made him dig in? Pride? Fear? Something else entirely? Again, no answer, because he never testified. And the biggest question that nobody can answer, if the races in this case had been reversed, would that jury come back in 3 hours with the same verdict? I'm not saying the answer is no. I'm saying that question deserves to be asked honestly out loud by every single person watching this video right now. Because if your answer changes depending on who is holding the knife and who is on the ground, then we have a much bigger conversation to have than one trial in Collin County, Texas. What we do know is this. Austin Metcalf was a 17-year-old boy with a twin brother who called him one half of one person. He had a 4.0 GPA, a football MVP award, and a father who loved him enough to show up at his killer's press conference, just hoping the two families could find some kind of common ground. He died in under 30 seconds in his brother's arms on a Wednesday morning at a track meet he was supposed to just compete at and go home from. And his mother stood in that courtroom on June 9th, 2026, looked directly at the young man who took her son's life and said, "You may have just been given a sentence of 35 years. You should feel lucky, because I've been sentenced to a life without my son. There is no verdict that fixes that. There is no sentence long enough to give Hunter back the other half of himself. There is no appeal, no protest, no viral video that brings Austin Metcalf home. What there is a community still bleeding. 2 families permanently shattered, and a country that watched all of it happen in real time on their phones, argued about it in comment sections, shared fake videos as fact, turned a dead teenager into a political symbol, and then moved on to the next story. I'm not moving on. And if you made it this far, I don't think you are either. If this case raised questions for you, drop them in the comment below. I read every single one. If you think that verdict was justice, tell me why. If you think Karmelo Anthony should have walked free, tell me that too. This is the kind of case where I genuinely want to know where you stand, because the conversation this story started is one this country needs to keep having. If you're new here, subscribe to CrimeLab Report. We don't do surface level. We go deep We go human, and we go after the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and never stop asking questions.